Golden from Riding from the Ground Up. This is my best friend Buddy. It's always easier to sit and speak to the camera with some company. Now, what I thought would be useful is if I just gave a brief background of my journey so far and how I ended up where I am today. And I was the typical pony crazed child who pestered my mum for many years before I was finally allowed riding lessons. I think I was around 9 or 10. Now, when I was nearly 12, both my mum and I got a job at Ahsoka Stud. Ahsoka Stud was owned by a lady called Mrs. Litton, and Sue Rosenthal was the trainer of the horses at the time. Now, what began with 3 stallions and a small herd of mares soon grew to, I think we had 16, 17 stallions, which was rather unique back in the late 80s, early 90s, because not only did we have a collection, a large collection of horses, the breeds were quite unique too. You know, we had Lipizzaners, Lusitanos, Andalusians, Morgans, Frisians, Hispano-Arabs, Moorabs, which is Arab cross Morgan, and a little Welsh section C stallion. Now, I wasn't allowed to ride for at least 2 years. I was just a child and I needed to earn the privilege, and I worked very hard to earn that privilege. But in this time, I was allowed to learn about training dogs, and I competed in dog obedience, qualified for Crufts as a junior handler, and began running my own dog club. I think I was around 15, 16. So my teaching career started very, very young. Now, Sue, who was the trainer, owned quarter horses, and she had a background in Western riding, but also had a flair for circus high school and circus tricks. So I had my eyes open from a very young age of what we could achieve with our horses. Now, one of the things that she would repeat on many occasions is, Becky, if you've got an issue under saddle, fix it on the ground, hence the name of my business. Now, in my mid-20s, I became main trainer for Ahsoka once Sue retired, and I was very fortunate that Mrs. Litton, the owner, she didn't only have a large collection of beautiful horses, she also had a very large collection of books, some of which were written by the classical masters, and there was a library of information that I studied for hours, and I had fantastic horses to practice with and really good reading, and this combination helped develop my knowledge. Then Mrs. Litton bought a black Lipizzana stallion, and he was the horse that really questioned what schooling was all about. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the breed, but they're not for the faint-hearted, and he definitely challenged me, and it was down to him where my in-hand work skills started to develop. So Condor had a talent in putting me on the ground. He had a skill of dropping one shoulder and throwing me into that space. So I guessed that he was trying to tell me something, and I knew that my skills previously learnt from Sue with the long reins wasn't necessarily going to be the thing that helped us. And this is where my skills for in-hand work started to develop. It was a combination of learning about clicker training with dogs and breaking things down into as many stages as possible, and a combination of the shorter reins, I could feel what the shoulders were doing. Obviously the reward-based training suited him a lot, and he became a happy horse in the school. Now, the next milestone was when I went to live down in Devon on Heather Moffat's yard, and Heather really helped address some of my riding issues, and I certainly left Heather's yard a better rider than when I arrived. But in my time there, she allowed me to hold workshops using her horses, teaching people about in-hand work and long reining. And then I was asked to do clinics around the UK. And in 2009, I moved back to Manchester, which is my hometown. So I was more central for travelling around the UK to do these clinics. Now, up until then, I'd never really needed to own my own horse. But now it was the time I did need a horse. And my mum was gifted an Irish sports horse mare called Jen. And this was the horse that found me out and definitely put me in my place. Previous, I'd not really done much work personally. I'd worked with other mares that belonged to other people, but in a lesson type situation that was fine. But I'd never really worked one-to-one with a mare as my own horse. And also an Irish sports horse, I'd never really dealt with that conformation or type either. And she was definitely the horse that pushed me to seek something else, a little bit like Condor did. And her main issue was inconsistency with contact. You know, she'd become very stressed very quickly. She'd always be above the hands. I tried lots of different bits. I spent thousands on bits, if I'm honest. She would like the new bit for so long before it became the same as all the other bits that I'd tried. I tried bitless. She was fine if I was hacking out, riding out on the buckle, not really asking anything from her. But as soon as it came to schooling, this was when our issues started. And along came Philippe Carl. Now, I was very fortunate to be chosen as one of the first riders on the UK course, which started in 2011. Now, after that first clinic, I'm not too sure what I'd signed up for. I thought it opened my eyes to how much I didn't know, but it was also a bit mind-blowing at how much I needed to learn and remember, and I never thought I'd ever become good enough to pass the exams. I only completed 4 clinics with Jen before, unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to her far too young. But in that year, she transformed because my hands transformed. And all of a sudden, my hands were speaking a language that she could understand. And the ironic thing is, she ended up in a very inexpensive £20 single joint Fulmer. Now, I would have never have chosen a single joint as a suitable bit for her because of her coming above the hands. And we're led to believe that the single jointed bits create a nutcracker action. But that only happens if the horse throws the head up and we keep the hands down, and obviously the nutcracker will hit the roof of the mouth. If we just simply follow, we never create a nutcracker. I will get into the bits in a bit more detail later on in the course. Now, I continued the training with my horse Esperito, who is a Lusitano cross warm blood. He's 24 now. He's still fit, sound, he's still in work. He really enjoyed our training with Philippe Carl, and he enjoyed the clinics just as much as I did. And he became my right-hand man. You know, I thank him a lot for helping me gain my full licence to the School of Légèreté.